Theme 3. Science and Technology. Gap filling. Reading 1. The first woman scientist. Hypatia was born in Alexandria, in Egypt, in 370 AD. For many centuries, she was the only woman scientist to have a place in the history books. Hypatia's father was director of Alexandria University, and he made sure his daughter had the best education available. This was unusual, as most women then had few opportunities to study. After studying in Athens and Rome, Hypatia returned to Alexandria, where she began teaching mathematics. She soon became famous for her knowledge of new ideas. We have no copies of her books, but we know that she wrote several important mathematical works. Hypatia was also interested in technology and invented several scientific tools to help with her works. At the time, many rulers were afraid of science, and anyone connected with it was in danger. One day in March 415, Hypatia was attacked in the street and killed. Theme 3. Science and Technology. Gap filling. Reading 2. Girls and Technology. If you want your daughter to succeed, buy her a toy construction set. That is the advice from Britain's foremost female engineers and scientists. Marie Noel Barton, who heads an engineering council campaign to encourage girls into science and engineering, maintains that some of Britain's most successful women have had their careers shaped by the toys they played with as children. Even girls who end up nowhere near a microchip or microscope could benefit from a better grasp of science and technology. It's a matter of giving them experience and confidence with technology, so that when they are presented with a situation requiring some technical know-how, they feel they can handle it and don't just admit defeat immediately, says Miss Barton. I believe that lots of girls feel unsure of themselves when it comes to technology, and therefore they might be losing out on jobs because they are reluctant even to apply for them. Research recently carried out suggests that scientific and constructional toys should be accessible to girls from an early age. Otherwise, the result is socialization into stereotypically female roles, which may explain why relatively few girls study science and engineering at university in Britain. Only 14% of those who have gone for engineering options at university this year are women, although this figure does represent an improvement on the 7% recorded some years ago. Theme 3. Science and Technology. Reading Comprehension. Reading 1. Recent technological advances in manned and unmanned vehicles, along with breakthroughs in satellite technology and computer equipment, have overcome some of the limitations of divers and diving equipment for scientists doing research on the great oceans of the world. Without a vehicle, divers often become sluggish, and their mental concentration was severely limited. Because undersea pressure affects their speech organs, communication among divers has always been difficult or impossible. But today, most oceanographers avoid the use of vulnerable human divers, preferring to reduce the risk to human life and to make direct observations by means of instruments that are lowered into the ocean, from samples taken from the water, or from photographs made by orbiting satellites. Direct observations of the ocean floor can be made not only by divers, but also by deep-diving submarines in the water, and even by the technology of sophisticated aerial photography from vantage points above the surface of the water. Some submarines can dive to depths of more than 7 miles and cruise at depths of 15,000 feet. In addition, radio-equipped buoys can be operated by remote control in order to transmit information back to land-based laboratories via satellite. Particularly important for ocean study are data about water temperature, currents and weather. Satellite photographs can show the distribution of sea ice, oil slicks, and cloud formations over the ocean. Maps created from satellite pictures can represent the temperature and the colour of the ocean's surface, enabling researchers to study the ocean's currents from laboratories on dry lands. Furthermore, computers help oceanographers to collect, organise and analyse data from submarines and satellites. By creating a model of the ocean's movement and characteristics, scientists can predict the patterns and possible effects of the ocean on the environment. Recently, many oceanographers have been relying more on satellites and computers than on research ships and even submarine vehicles, because they can supply a greater range of information more quickly and more effectively. Some of humankind's most serious problems, especially those concerning energy and food, may be solved with the help of observations made possible by this new technology. Theme 3. Science and Technology. Reading Comprehension. Reading 2. Iron production was revolutionized in the early 18th century, when coke was first used instead of charcoal for refining iron ore. Previously, the poor quality of the iron had restricted its use in architecture to items such as chains and tie bars for supporting arches, vaults, and walls. With the improvement in refining ore, it was now possible to make cast iron beams, columns, and girders. During the 19th century, further advances were made, notably Bessemer's process for converting iron into steel, which made the material more commercially viable. Iron was rapidly adopted for the construction of bridges, because its strength was far greater than that of stone or timber, but its use in the architecture of buildings developed more slowly. By 1800, a complete internal iron skeleton for buildings had been developed in industrial architecture, replacing traditional timber beams, but it generally remained concealed. Apart from its low cost, the appeal of iron as a building material lay in its strength, its resistance to fire, and its potential to span vast areas. As a result, iron became increasingly popular as a structural material for more traditional styles of architecture during the 19th century, but it was invariably concealed. Significantly, the use of exposed iron occurred mainly in the new building types spawned by the Industrial Revolution. In factories, warehouses, commercial offices, exhibition halls, and railroad stations, where its practical advantages far outweighed its lack of status. Designers of the railroad stations of the new age explored the potential of iron, covering huge areas with spans that surpassed the great vaults of medieval churches and cathedrals. Paxton's Crystal Palace, designed to house the Great Exhibition in 1851, covered an area of 1,848 feet by 408 feet in prefabricated units of glass set in iron frames. The Paris exhibition of 1889 included both the widest span and the greatest height achieved so far, with the Halle der Maschine spanning 362 feet, and the Eiffel Tower 1,000 feet high. However, these achievements were mocked by the artistic elite of Paris as expensive and ugly follies. Iron, despite its structural advantages, had little aesthetic status. The use of an exposed iron structure in the more traditional styles of architecture was slower to develop.